Well, I got several. I guess I know that the people that, administration, the ones that maybe we need to talk to, no longer work here, but maybe they can enlighten me with, so October in 2014, there was an investigation made on this site?
So you're asking,
Yeah, and then,
I'm not sure who,
I don't know who to direct that also to.
Ryan?
The property standards investigation was initiated in May 2015, and from that date we've been working with the applicant. We first went over the two options. There's the option of locating the business to another location within the municipality or elsewhere, or making an application for zoning bylaw amendment. So that was the first part of the process. The applicant noted that they would like to proceed with a zoning bylaw amendment to have the use recognized as a permitted use on the property.
Okay, and I guess my second question was that if there was a problem, I'm not sure then why they would even have issued a building permit for the house.
That I wouldn't be able to comment on. I'm not sure of the all the protocols surrounding building permits. So.
Were I guess the applicants aware of the situation when they purchased this? Did they know that what they could or could not do on agricultural land? You wouldn't know that either, probably, right?
It's our understanding, Jackie and Chris, correct me if I'm wrong, that the applicants were informed that this would be what they were looking to do would be okay on the property. That was my understanding from what the applicants were informed when they purchased the property. But correct me if I'm wrong, Jackie.
That's our understanding, that the applicants are with us this evening, and they can answer that question directly. But our understanding is that they were told, yes, they could do this use on this property.
Councillor Jacobs?
Thank you, Worship. And in addition to Councillor Verbicki, then, who told them that? Was it the municipality? Was it the realtor?
Question for you?
The real estate.
Regrettably, I can't answer that question.
Well, nobody really told me that. I guess that's where we were before. It was the same zoning. I checked that out, and there was never any issues. And so it looked like we had a little bit more room here, and so yeah, the realtor said basically as long as there's no neighbor issues, and we had talked to all the neighbors, and there was no issues there. But that's.
So it was the realtor that directed you, saying you could run that business there?
He didn't exactly say I could. He didn't want to be responsible for it, but he said.
Shouldn't be an issue. Okay. Councillor Jacobs?
So then there was no communication with our municipality in respect to that. Then you're just saying this was simply that by word of mouth, it's okay to just go ahead. So that's what you base this on. I just want to be clear that I don't want to be thinking that you had a runaround on you or something here.
Yeah, I did not talk to council. I wasn't aware that I should have, probably. I wasn't aware I should have.
Councillor Hammond?
Your Worship, thank you. When you talked about this being the same zoning as your prior location, I went on the website and looked up your prior location, and it wasn't zoned for the work you were performing there as well. Were you not located on number 3 highway just this side of Wheatley?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. And I don't believe that property was zoned correctly as well. But the other question, I have 2 questions, if I may, Your Worship. The question was, do you have fuel storage on site? And administration has yet to receive an answer if you do store fuel on site.
No, we don't.
You don't. And when I looked at it, I looked at the small scale usage of it, and I again went back to your website. And I would first ask you, how many employees do you have there?
We have about 8 that work.
How many?
8 of them that work there during the day.
8 during the day?
Yeah.
Do you have a night shift as well?
There's 2 people. 2 people that work.
My reason for asking is when I looked at your website, you produce, and nice products they are, but you produce a number of nice products from there based on the information. I was of the opinion you had more than 8 or 10 employees. No?
I guess the website does, well, the website is a sales pitch, right? That's what it is, and that's
Oh,
the
so-
web designer.
So we're not to
put a lot
believe
of
that?
stuff in there to make it look attractive, so I guess. I didn't design it myself.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Councillor Verbicki, if I can go back to you, the house issue, the building of a house, what is the problem with that?
Oh, no, I did, like, if there was I guess, if there was an order issued on this property, then why would you issue a building permit before this issue was cleared up? I'm just thinking future, like, all of a sudden, if this is denied, they've got a beautiful home there and they can't work out of it. That's the, the end solution, which would be, should have been stopped before.
Councillor Dunn?
Through you, Your Worship, my question is, so you've talked to the resident, that they talk about in the report that there's one house that's 20 meters and there's supposed to be a 70-meter difference in zoning. Have you talked to that resident?
Yes, I have, and I actually offered I'd put up a wood fence or whatever they want, and they said, no, we don't want anything. We used to trucks coming in here all the time. He says, we like seeing somebody do something in there. We don't want anything in our way. That's what they said.
And the other question, if I may, Your Worship, have you just recently built a new home out there?
Yes, we have.
I think.
So, Deputy Mayor?
I'm sorry about that, Mr. Mayor, chit-chatting away. I did receive a couple of complaints about your business that led to bylaw coming out there. I do think this is a problem that we have fairly rampant in our community where people open businesses and they don't do their homework ahead of time. And quite frankly, I don't think that there's any reason that we can allow to have that in the middle of what we're hoping to be, continue to be prime agricultural. People need to do their homework. If we allow this to happen, then we're basically allowing every other business that decides to open up shop on a bigger piece of property to do it wherever they want. Again, this is another one of these situations that is very tough because it creates a financial burden. But I don't see how this is something that we can let go through. I do believe, quite frankly, and I'm not going to argue the point, but I do believe the reason this happens very often is because people want to pay fewer taxes, because of the agricultural levy is much less than commercial and industrial. So I personally feel that we as a council need to take a stand on this in order to keep this from happening again, and also to put out the warning for anyone who's in the process of doing a business in an area that is not zoned properly to either apply for a change or to find a place that is properly zoned. So for me, with all the reasons stated here, I don't see how we can justify it. There is absolutely no reason here that we can justify this.
Councillor Jacobs?
Thank you, Worship. It seems this has been going on for quite a while, and I have to agree with the Deputy Mayor. I don't think we can, spot, I guess, okay, these types of projects. But the one thing I would ask maybe that we could do to lessen the burden on you currently is that can we give them an opportunity of time so that he has an ability to relocate? You're in business, I presume, and you have orders to meet and so on, but to give them an opportunity at this stage of the game to relocate, if that would be his choice, that if that was his intent, we could give him a time limit? Is that a possibility? rather than just
I
putting
would
strictly out of business type thing?
We're usually reasonable, so I would think we could have that discussion. Councillor Verbicki?
Really, Mayor, if this was a farm at one time, I'm kind of curious to see how come 4.65 acres, that's not a minimal farm size. I don't know why it was surveyed or severenced off. I don't know if it was grandfathered before, before, I know the old Mercia days or whatever, but I'm just curious because I have another one coming up like this next year, so I just want to touch base with that. If anybody can give me an answer, I'd appreciate it.
Well, I think
Even
you
in
could-
public, I mean, personally,
Yeah, you could probably request that through admin, and they'll have to dig through the records. Brian and Bashara, I guess, the two of you are here. Councillor Verbicki raised a question about if there was an order on the property, how was a building permit issued? Was there an order on the property before the building permit was issued, or is that a non-topic?
Mr. Mayor, I'm not aware if there's any order. I can check. When we receive permit application, we usually review site plan. If the information were disclosed on the site plan, that operating business, certainly we could have catch that then, because the business is required is some type of washroom facilities and that septic system required to be designed. I don't recall that we went into that situation. So I have to check back our file to see if those info were disclosed to us at the time of the permit was issued.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Chris Todorosi for the applicant. My
Need you
question
to turn
is
your
with-
microphone on, sorry.
Okay. Hello?
Yep.
My question is with the procedure. I thought generally there's a three-step process. At tonight's meeting, if the application is deemed complete, you accept the application. Then step 2 will be scheduling a public meeting. And then step 3, you would have a substantive debate whether you accept or deny the application. And I think we're skipping a few steps. This is, I think, it's stage 1 where the application is complete, and then you schedule a public meeting and follow due process involved.
Well, actually, in the report, as I read it, if I can find it again here, I think we have the ability to just say we're not in favor of this happening at all, and that your client can then appeal the OMB on our decision tonight. Councillor Hammond.
Your worship, thank you. Yeah, the application hasn't been complete by my understanding here, because it says administration is of the opinion the applicant has not provided sufficient information on noise, fumes, dust, odor, or anything else.
Actually, if I could speak to that for a moment, there is a planning justification report that was submitted with the application, and the justification report goes into details about the history and the previous use for light industrial on this property. It was a processing facility for farm products for a number of years. So in our position, my professional opinion, you're dealing with a use that does conform with the official plan, but in accordance with your official plan policies, the use is changing, allow for light industrial use through a bylaw amendment. We have therefore requested of administration the consideration of a zoning bylaw amendment. And from our understanding, this report would be included in the council agenda, giving our position, and it wasn't. 2, that we, as a first step, bring it forward to council as a complete application, which in our opinion it is considered a complete application, then we make a case at the public meeting for our position. And it's at that point, council has the discussion whether they wish to proceed with a bylaw amendment. In my 30 years, I've never had a council not proceed to a public meeting to weigh in an appropriately judicial process both sides of the case. To have it outrightly denied at this point, yeah, it would make us, at that point, have no other option but to go to the board. And I don't think anybody wants to do that. We're merely saying, give us an opportunity to make our case and explain to council why this is a sound use of an existing facility that was previously used for light industrial purposes.
Well,
And
in my professional opinion, which is just being a citizen who owns 25 acres and have a great big beautiful pole barn on my property, and I would love to run a business out of it, and I know I can't because it's zoned agriculture. And we have come across this so many times in my past 10 years, whatever it's been on council, that, yeah, we're at that point where, yeah, you know what, we can say, no, we're not going to approve this because we're saying to you, it's agricultural land, and if you want to run an industry, run it in the proper zoned areas. And that's where I think a number of us on council, I can only speak for myself, but that's where I am. And a potato packing shipping shed is an agricultural use, not a manufacturing use. So when admin tells me that we can sit up here and say, yeah, you know what, we're not going to allow this to happen, then we have that ability to make that decision. And you have the ability to go back and appeal our decision to the OMB. And be quite honest with you, that's the recommendation that's here, and that's the one I'll be supporting. But it will be up to council's decisions on that side.
And one more point about the application. Even in the recommendation, your own planner says the application is deemed complete.
Yep. Councilor Verbeke?
So this is now zoned, thank you, Mayor. This is now zoned A3, and there is no, I guess, workable land here now. I mean, there probably a garden or something, but, you know, I'm just, okay, I know where I'm going, but I know I can't get there right now, Hilda, so that's all I'm going to say for now.
Well, then, what are council's wishes? We do have a recommendation before us. Deputy Mayor?
Well, I'm going to move the recommendation. I'm reading the second part that says that a light manufacturing use as a permitted use be refused, and that's what I'm seeing here. That's how I understand it. I believe it was against our bylaws, against our laws, and we are not going to take it a step further. That's how I see it. And what you said about the OMB, absolutely. There is recourse, but we're taking a stand on this, and let that be a notice to everyone else who's doing the same thing.
I have a motion mover, supported by Councilor Jacobs. Comment?
Thank you, Worship. And going back to the previous question I had asked in regarding to time for this individual, like if this passes here that it's not conforming, can we give him the ability on a time, I guess CAO or whoever could answer that for me, please?
Mr. Neufeld?
Sure. In situations like this, especially because it is a viable business, and we want to encourage those sorts of businesses in our town. I'm not sure if the applicant has been put in touch with our economic development officer, but that would certainly be the next step. And as well, I'm sure that we can allow time, whether it's 90 days, 3 months, 4 months. I mean, it's not an insignificant business he's got running there. So we can allow for some time, provided that we see steps being taken through our economic development officer or through the applicant showing us that he is making attempts to find another place to set up his business.
Councilor Jacobs?
Would that require a friendly amendment to the motion, or that would be just taken into consideration by administration?
Right. No, I don't think any amendment is required. We would just act in due course. This is how we work with people. This is not the only person that we've dealt with and have moved in this regard. So, no, it's just a matter of how we do business.
Okay, and if I may ask of the applicant, would that assist you with what the Mr. Neufeld is saying, that if we do pass this tonight, that it would give you an opportunity? Is that acceptable to you? Like for a time frame, you can work with the administration here?
Well, it's going to have to be, if we decide, so accordingly. Deputy Mayor?
Well, I was just going to say, is it not a bit of a moot point if they go on to OMB? Won't OMB be making that decision? It won't come back to us, will it? Or to administration?
hard call. So he functions while, if the appeal goes, okay. Yep.
I wasn't expecting to close them down right away. I didn't mean that at all. But all I was saying was, well, till the process goes to OMB, there will still be more time elapsed anyway.
Yep. Okay, so then we have a motion on the floor. Sorry, Councillor Dunn?
Your worship, my question is, I guess, to Peter, regarding the residential house there, and because it's light industrial, the onus of having, or maybe it's Brian's question, I'm not sure, that properties like running a light industrial business being so close to residential does not bring concerns as well. That's the concern I might have, that trying to run, that's why we put certain industrial businesses in certain, away from residential areas and stuff.
Yeah, that is what we take into consideration. I think the applicant has indicated he has spoken with his neighbors who didn't seem to have an issue. However, if those neighbors move and new neighbors come in and suddenly you do have a conflict, that is exactly the sort of thing that we have to take a look at. So if the applicant chooses to go to the OMB, there will be questions like that asked. Sure.
Brian?
Just to follow up on Peter's point, that's so when we review applications, there's no names associated or anything. We'd use a worst case scenario. So if development was at its full maximum capacity, and if no matter what properties adjacent, we look at the type of use and the effect that it would have on that respective property owner. So just to follow up on Peter's point.
Okay, I'll call the question then. All those in favor of the recommendation as presented? Opposed? Abstained? Carried. Okay. Next item on the agenda is a report regarding the temporary use bylaw of Canadian Tire Real Estate. And that, Brian again?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. With respect to this application, Canadian Tire has completed renovations within their Leamington store to convert a large portion of warehouse storage space to retail floor space. The renovations were completed to address the new shopping trend involving a shopper's preference to shop in retail stores where a larger quantity and variety of merchandise is kept on display. Canadian Tire had found that customers were being drawn away from their store to shop in stores that catered to the new trend. The reduction in warehouse storage space has resulted in a deficiency in storage space for merchandise. Canadian Tire placed 11 transport trailers in the loading area at the rear of their store to be used as additional storage space, addressing the deficiency temporarily until a permanent solution can be found. The zoning bylaw does not permit temporary structures or the use of transport trailers for storage. An ongoing property standards investigation has resulted in Canadian Tire's submission of a temporary use bylaw application requesting that temporary structures and the use of transport trailers for storage be permitted for a period of 3 years. Canadian Tire has indicated that there are no plans for an addition to the store over the next 5 years. The temporary use bylaw will provide Canadian Tire 3 years to find a solution to their deficiency in storage space, which does not involve the use of temporary structures or transport trailers for storage. Temporary use bylaws are a tool to be used by council to authorize the temporary use of land, buildings, or structures for any purpose that is otherwise prohibited by the zoning bylaw, and where alternatives such as relocation are not practical and would result in undue hardship on the owner. The OP sets out criteria that council shall be satisfied has been met prior to approving a temporary use bylaw. Administration is of the opinion that the criteria has been met. Administration further notes that concerns raised through the property standards investigation involving the unsightliness of the transport trailers will be addressed through site plan control. As part of the site plan control process, administration will be requiring the transport trailers to be relocated to the area immediately south of the loading area and necessary landscape buffering be installed on the property. In conclusion, administration has reviewed and deemed the application to be complete pursuant to the requirements of the Planning Act and recommends that it be directed to schedule the required public meeting.
Thank you very much. questions, comments from council? Councillor Jacobs?
Thank you, Worship. This particular subject has been come before us a couple of times previously from residents in that particular neighborhood complaining of those trailers being parked there. And I, for one, would not support this going to a public meeting with a 3-year maximum. They're saying that the store will not be expanded within 5 years, but in the last, I think, 3 or 4 years, these trailers have been popping up more frequently. I think there was 1 or 2 there previously, then there was 3, then there was 4, now we're up to 11. And and I guess it has to do, and with all due respect to the current operator of the building, I think you're about the 3rd or 4th one in the last 3 or 4 years that has been in there. And you know, that there's no saying where this is going. I don't think it's not like it's a permanent operator that will be there. It's a corporation store, I believe, and they have an opportunity to move whenever a store becomes available, if I'm correct. It's quite evident that the store is very viable. It's a busy store. And they have enough, I believe, of a significant footprint there that they could accommodate some type of a building for storage. And I can't see where they need 3 years to resolve an issue that's quite apparent that's already there. And as I say, I'm not trying to impede their operation, but I think in some of the complaints registered by some of the residents down through there, that it is a situation that they're not comfortable with. I would say we could give them a year to provide storage in a building. I don't think would be unreasonable. And I can't see the need for 3 years to make a decision on something that's quite apparent already to them. So that would be my recommendation on this. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Brian, I'm not sure if you've driven by recently, but today when I went by there, they have about a half a dozen trailers right now parked in the proposed trailer location, and I want to say another 4 or so were backed up against the west side of the building there where the existing trailer location is. Maybe the owner can speak to this, but the way that sits today, is that satisfactory? The way they have them aligned right now, it looks like somebody has put an effort in to get them nice and squared up on the south side where you had them proposed trailer, but I only noticed there was 6 there. Is that considered satisfactory the way it is right now to follow it within the allowance?
That is what we were anticipating, that identify now that the trailers parked further north are the ones that are clearly visible. So as there are the ones that are positioned down there now, that would be what we would anticipate to see with the other ones when they're relocated.
So all of them have to get out along the west side then, that back up to the back of the building on the west side. They have to be removed as well and head out to the south side towards Walmart, correct?
That's correct. That's
all
what
of them would be in that stretch.
That's what we'd be looking at through site plan control and investigating buffering too, if that would help to further address or to address any issues from concerned residents in the surrounding area.
All right, thank you.
Deputy Mayor?
I just find 11 trailers is an excessive amount. To my way of thinking, if you need 11 trailers, then you darn well better go rent yourself some space, because you got stuff that's not moving. Then you put it in a warehouse, or you put up a building. 11 trailers to me is totally unacceptable. I agree, it has been made to look better, and if this council says yes to 11 trailers, we better have something in place that we keep checking on them, that doesn't fall into a heck of a mess that it's been in the past. We have enough warehouse space in this municipality that if you've got stuff that you're storing from season to season, you can haul it over there. What I want to know is, do you pay taxes on trailers? Is that added to your description of your impact assessment?
Who are you directing? I
Oh,
haven't
that would
invited
be
the... Ramona?
Ramona. Sorry, Brian. Ramona, would you pay taxes on that?
No, you would not pay taxes on trailers. There are some criteria that would have to be met, but it would be hydro and water to the trailers, decks around the trailers, removing the tongue, things like that.
So, I think we just found ourselves a reason for 11 trailers.
Councillor Hammond?
Your worship, thank you. I too have been approached by one or two of the neighbors down there, and I do appreciate the fact that you're the owner of Canadian Tire. If you don't mind coming forward, I have a question I'd like to
Well,
address.
I'll invite him up.
Oh, I'm
Are
sorry.
Are you addressing questions to the owner?
Well, I'm first going to make a comment, then I'm going to. Yes.
Okay, right now we're addressing to Brian.
Okay,
So
to Brian.
if you want to hold on to it.
I will hold on.
And then Councillor Dunn,
Thank you.
question to staff or to the owner as well? Okay. All right. Then I would like to invite up Mr. McLean. Or are you Keith King? Are you Ron McLean or
Sorry,
Keith
I'm Ron
King?
McLean, yes.
Ron McLean, okay, good. Well, yeah, tell us who you are and how you're associated with all of this. And
Well, I've been a Canadian Tire dealer for 15 years. I've been here since March a year ago. I guess the background of it would be I've been in neighboring stores, and when I was competing against the dealers that were here, one of the advantages that we had was that Leamington never had the stock. So the number one thing for customer service is people want to have the product there when they come for what's in the flyer every week. So we're a very seasonally driven business. A lot of it's high cube. So it's been more and more of that growth over the years. And I'd say the dealer that was here before me was the first one that kind of caught on to the fact that there was just a lot of complaints about not having stock, being able to shop the store. So he had increased the inventory, and that's like I believe he had 5 trailers if you count the one against the building and 1 container. And so I've since doubled it with trying to get more space within the warehouse to have it logistically better to flow. And so that's how that circumstance had come about. And it's not prudent to have trailers if I don't need the trailers, because I'd rather have it like in the building, but it's difficult within that layout. And in terms of renting warehouse space, one of the issues there is that the customers, when they come into your store, they want it now. So a lot of our business, like in the back in the seasonal area with patio furniture and whatnot, it gets shipped in large quantities and comes out during the week of the flyer. Like they don't want to be waiting for, okay, you can come back on this day to pick it up, that kind of thing. So that is mostly what's in the trailers. There is some off-season stuff that can be an issue, because like right now, I've overbought snow blowers, for example. So yeah, we could make arrangements to ship something away, and over time it would reduce my costs if I could reduce the number of trailers. But I'm kind of between a rock and a hard place between the, I don't own the building, and there's an approval process with Canadian Tire as well. So that's why I'm just looking for whatever options that we have and what best satisfies everybody. Because I mean, we're here to serve the community, and that includes the neighbors, so I understand that. And
okay. So then back to Councillor Hammond.
Again, Your Worship, thank you. I guess my first question, Ron, I'll start from the beginning. I have too heard a number of complaints, and to your credit, you've put wheels under them, and I've seen them painted, and they certainly look a lot better now than they did a few months back. But were you a part of the process, along with Brian, are you content with the proposed trailer location that I see on the map here now, to move them over there from the rear of the building?
yeah, well, that was part of our discussion when we had added the trailers, because there was a couple parked along the side. So we put the ones that are in the field now, because we thought it looked better. And we knew it was an option to maybe put that across, but there's more of a slope. And that's where I need somebody's expertise to help me figure out how are we going to do this properly. But I'm definitely in favor of putting them over there, because it's farther away from the road and any possible complaints that people would have.
And logistically, it's not a major change.
And
for
also
us.
to put
It's
up
a little less convenient, but
and
that's
also,
fine.
if I can, and also to put up some buffering along to help hide those trailers as well. I agree with our deputy mayor that 11 is really getting excessive. You know, at some point, even though I don't necessarily want to force you to have to build more storage space, but when you get to be 11, and you've already said or alluded to the fact you've gone from 4, 6 now to 11. The underlying thing with, at least in my opinion, is to try and get these trailers that people perceive to be unsightly covered up. So by putting them in a different location and buffering them, I think helps, at least for the short term. And I think that's where Councillor Jacobs was coming from. You know, it'd be nice to see in a 5-term plan where, you know, you're looking at putting on some additional storage space, and based on the information provided to us, there's no plan for future development there. So having said that, and you talked about this fellow beside you, I wonder if that wasn't Don Cherry, because your name is Ron McLean, so.
Yeah.
I too would like to see the numbers reduced, to a more manageable amount, and putting some fencing around them or buffering them, I think would be the possible solution for the short term.
Okay. Councillor Dunn? No? Okay, so then Councillor Jacobs.
Thank you, Worship. And going back to your statement, Ron, that you said that, excuse me, you've increased the capacity or your inventory, I guess would be. And as I said earlier, though, that if a store comes up tomorrow, wherever, and you're interested in it, you have the opportunity through their system that you could move on to a different store, correct?
Correct.
Now, I guess where I'm coming from, if the next individual that comes in behind you and says, gee, you know, he did a great inventory here, but I need more. So he wants to put up another 3 or 4 trailers. And I guess that's where I'm coming from. The store is a viable store. It's a busy store. And I can't see why it takes 3 years, for whatever reason, that you're looking at coming up with another solution. Now, I don't know whether it's the Canadian Tire Corporation themselves that own the property and they're the ones that build on there, or can you petition them for an expansion of that store for the simple fact that you want it for inventory? Is that an option for you?
I can't petition them to expand. There might be, although I've never done it, there might be a process where I can get them to allow me to buy my own building and put it up, you know, which may or may not be. So I have to go through the process with Canadian Tire Real Estate. So I've never really been in that situation before.
I'm sympathetic to your cause. However, excuse me, I really feel that 3 years is too long to ask that we permit 11 trailers to sit there. And maybe you want more next week, you know, if you're saying your business is building up. I'm just
Yeah, no, I understand.
hypothetically
I
where I'm
understand
going.
that.
And I guess what I'm saying, though, is that within a year, there's got to be some compromise or some resolution that could be achieved that would be able to eliminate those trailers, either put up a temporary type structure back there or something. You have enough property. And again, I'm not trying to impose a hardship on you, but I think we have an obligation under our bylaws to do this. And if we permit yours today, someone down the street, as our deputy mayor states on a couple of different occasions, once we start permitting these things, there could be no end to them. And I would go with the recommendation of administration, but limit it to a 1-year extension. That would be my recommendation, Your Worship.
Okay. Why the 3 years? Was this an agreement between planning and yourselves, or where did the 3-year come from?
I guess it was to allow as much flexibility as possible. Like, yes, I'd like to reduce them. Already I was trying to reduce them, and time flies, and it's not easy when the seasons keep coming in. So if I tell you, like, no problem, in a year they'll be gone, I mean, I'd actually like to see that, and it can be done. I mean, I can haul them away. There's something that can happen that way. But to do it in an orderly fashion and still manage the business, that's the thing that I'm not exactly sure of the amount of time. So it's not really related to whether or not I'm still here or anything else. It's, like I say, there is a cost to them, and it'd be better not to have them if I can get around it. Plus, Canadian Tire hasn't committed to doing anything in the next few years, but they could. Like, you don't know.
Would it help if council put that pressure on you to them?
It probably wouldn't help me
No?
to put pressure on Canadian Tire.
No, okay. Maybe some other avenues. Okay, so to be honest with you, I haven't heard any complaints. I've only heard it come from certain council members, and so to me, I've got to ask, what is it the complaints are about? They just look ugly?
If I may, Your Worship, yes, that's exactly right. Actually, the complaints that I've received are from the residents that are on the two streets just right behind the old Zellers, and
Okay.
like the condominium homes. And now I see there's more going up. You know, I mean, that's rapidly expanding behind you as well. And I could just foresee maybe more complaints coming out of there. I don't know, but I've definitely had complaints out of those.
But it's not a safety issue, it's not anything like that, it's just an appearance.
It's unsightly, and I admit that. Like, I drive by, I find it unsightly. With all due respect, first they were on the ground, then they're up, and now you got. I mean, to me, they look like a pile of junk. To be honest with you, they got
Well-
half a wheel on one, and this and that. They've been painted to look a little bit more presentable. But
Would you like them on the ground? These trailers are 13.6. If you drop them down, you can drop them down 4 feet. He had them on the ground, and I guess the complaint was they weren't allowed on the ground. So, I mean, you're not going to please everybody around that. You guys keep building behind them. That's industrial area. People are going to complain no matter what you do. Anything to do with trucks, trailers, or whatever. I've been in the business for 45 years. You're going to get it. If some towns had it, there wouldn't be no trucks at all. And that's just the way it is. So would it look better if they're dropped down 4 feet or the way they sit?
I believe by our bylaws, you can't drop them down. I mean, that's against the bylaw. But they're supposed to be, and I don't want to get into an argument here or anything else. I think our bylaw officers can do it. But in my opinion, they have to be, if it's a roadworthy vehicle with a plate on it, a truck could hook onto it and haul it away, that's a temporary storage trailer. But the way they're sitting there now, and you couldn't haul that thing across the street without something falling off it.
I could have that thing ready in an hour to go down the road.
Okay, I'm not going to get in an argument.
No, you don't have
but-
to get in an argument. What I'm saying is, like, where do you stop with all this stuff here and try to please people? People are going to complain, whatever the case may be. I mean, if even on these bins they go in and drop. I know around town here right now, I can count 21 of them within 6 minutes. Do you get any more complaints about that? Man is in business. He's trying to have a good business. He's trying to bring parts in. He's trying to keep stock in. And this town needs a business, not destroy it.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I think I'm one of your better customers. I'm there just about every day. But the fact is that we are getting complaints, and we do have the bylaw in place. And as we're saying, 11 units is a lot to put on a piece of property. And and we have to address complaints. That every one of us are up here elected by these residents of this municipality to request what they're asking of us. And they have legitimate complaints. Some of them are frivolous, granted. But some of them have.
Let me ask you this question here. I've heard all night about trucks and all the bull and all this stuff. So what you're trying to do is you keep building all these houses up back to these commercial buildings. But you're building down there again now. On the back Zellers, there was the property 100 feet away from the old Zellers building, commercial. I mean, you guys, when you make these plans too, you got to think about, you got residential, you got commercial. You can't please everybody. And that's why I'm listening to this tonight here. This is not a trucking town, but the man is here to unemployed people, to give them jobs and put business in town. Leamington's not in a position to turn away business.
I had Councillor Dunn and then Wilkinson.
Thank you, Your Worship. Through you, Your Worship. Ron, my question is that I understand being Christmas, it makes it very hard with trying to get the extra stock in. But what is your plans like in the future? Like, you're trying to downsize right now. As soon as you were planning on coming here, you were automatically trying to make it look a little bit more presentable. You're working with administration right now, trying to buffer it so that it's not a hindrance to to the residents over there, and you are in the process right now of trying to actually reduce the number of trailers?
Yes. So, I mean, I guarantee there's not going to be more than 11. And if you want to tell me how many, if I can work with somebody about taking the weight in an orderly fashion over time, it's a little easier than guaranteeing how easy it is to just get either all of them or most of them out just because of the season. But we can work with administration, like whatever is acceptable, we can figure out how to do it. Just want to do it in the most orderly fashion.
Again, Your Worship, and because you're newly into this position, you're the new owner since March. You're also trying.
A year ago, March, I think. That's why I
A
said
year
how
ago?
fast it goes, yes.
Oh, a year ago March, but still, I mean, that you're still learning the sales and
Yeah,
trying to adjust to the
It's been about a year of
sales
watching what it is, and that's...
and trying to gauge it and trying to make sure that you have enough
Well,
stock.
Yeah, because you recognize Christmas, but actually here with the weather that we have here, the big season is actually the spring, even more than Christmas for us. Like that's the critical one about making sure that we have all the outdoor living stuff that people need, and it's all big bulky stuff. And then they want it that day when those flyers are there. But we certainly don't need 11 trailers for all of that over time. What happened was it was very crowded. There's the issues of, frankly, Ministry of Labor coming in, looking at the warehouse saying, man, you got a lot of stuff in this warehouse. So it was a matter of freeing up and making it easier to move and trying to get it organized and easier to have customers come to the customer pickup area. And that's why those other ones were on the ground, was the convenience of that you pay for it and go around the back and we, right. But the 11, like, we won't need 11 over time for sure. I think there was a reason why half of those trailers were here when I came here, and the warehouse was crowded. And yes, I'm trying to grow the business, and we have had a fortunate year this year. But now, truly, I do want to get the inventory to start coming down just to manage the business better. But it's a slow, long process for me to figure out how to do it, because all my mistakes are still there until I sell them off, even though you've got lots of markdowns. So that's why I'm evasive in terms of knowing exactly how fast I can do what you want to do.
Again, Your Worship, if you don't mind. So my other question is, do they automatically ship you from head office?
No.
Shipments of product? It's you're ordering? That's, okay. And you acquired 6 trailers of stock from the previous manager? Is basically what you're saying, that they were there originally?
I think he had 4 trailers and a container, and then plus the 1 trailer that was against the building. So I added, I guess that's 5 trailers, right? I added the ones in the field basically, and just moved the 2 that were parked on the side over to the side.
And so the stock in your actual in your area was also maybe a hindrance or a health and safety issue? Is that why you moved a lot out to the trailers? Is that what you're saying? Is that it was just a little bit too much?
That's part of it. It's the flexibility. It's like we can't have this so jammed up, and that's even why so many trailers, because they're not all full of stuff. It's half full if you want to be able to get in and get to the snow blowers or whatever is there. So it's you know what I mean? We're not packing it as in shipping it. We're storing bulky stuff so we can go get that barbecue or get that snow blower.
Thank you.
Okay. I have Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Mayor. Ron, I just want to clear something up here. The way your colleague was speaking here earlier, I think this report here and what administration is doing here tonight, they're trying to help you. And
Yeah.
I get the sense that you think we're trying to hurt almost, hinder the business of what he's doing. We appreciate what he's doing. We appreciate the steps that you took and to make it look better there. I struggled with this report when I read it too. I got no problem doing a 1 year, 3 year, whatever it is, but there's no plan B on the back end of this to say at the end of 12 months or 36 months, we are going to have a building up to support what's inside these trailers. There's nothing there when they say that they have no plans in 5 years to do that. The only little solution I heard you say was you need a little bit of time to catch up and figure out how to manage your business, what's out there in your trailers, and get a hold of that. Mm-hmm. I wonder if a solution here wouldn't be the 12 months that Councillor Jacobs recommended. We look at it 12 months from now about whether we extend it, get a report back from Ron saying, yeah, I'm starting to get this under control and I'm making strides here. You can see I'm down to 8 now, or 6 hopefully. You know, I think we need to work with this gentleman here somewhat. But I think that's a possible scenario is here. Go to the 12 months that Councillor Jacobs has recommended. We revisit it 12 months from now and see if he is making strides to make it better. That's my recommendation.
Okay. And Mr. Neufeld.
Well, it may seem like a really simple thought, but there seems to be an empty store just across the road from you. And I'm wondering if you had given any consideration to renting some space from the old Zeller's store. It would help to eliminate the trailers that you have. It's still in close proximity, and the municipality would be in the best interest of the municipality going forward as well.
I guess I'd have to have a conversation with the person who owns it and knows what, I mean, yeah, that's a big store. I don't know what they'd be willing to do and how.
I'm no expert, but it's about 11 trailers big.
Okay, so Councillor Wilkinson?
I really like that suggestion, Peter. Now, that could also be part of, if we were to say, we'll give him 12 months here to work out his trailers here and try and manage the business, and maybe that is an option he's going to look into, is renting some space from Zellers. That could be one, if we go with the the proposed recommendation Councillor Jacobs had of 12 months, and we put an amendment in there that we need to review this at the end of 12 to see if we're going to extend it any further.
Well, to be honest with you, I like your recommendation of saying 12 months and review it at 12 months and see how things are going. We've got to give this guy, like you say, the chance to get this business under control, so, and see where we go. Again, if they're building buffers around all of this stuff and they're kind of tucking those trucks back, I'm not sure where it's going to be an issue. And with, was it Keith's comment, we're locating houses right behind these commercial zones. It happens everywhere. It does happen everywhere. I don't care where you go. Pick a city, pick a town. If you've got houses in behind commercial or industrial, you've got stuff, and it is what it is. So I don't have an issue. I think I have to go to the deputy mayor first.
I like that idea too, what Tim said about reducing within the year and Mr. Jacobs' initial proposal. And the fact that you said he didn't have a plan B, that was it exactly. I think that's what left us all kind of up in the air. You've got 11 trailers, and what are you going to do in 3 years? Come back and want more. But what the other gentleman said, we have to have standards, otherwise everything runs amok. And actually, I believe with us not being as enforcing with our property standards as we've been in the last 5 years, we've got exactly that. We've got a big old mess and a bunch of people that don't know how to keep their yards clean. And I don't just mean you. I'm talking across the whole municipality. We have to say this is the standard and this is what we expect. We're not telling you to pave it in gold and put dancing girls on top of the trailers. We're saying here's the time limit, keep it neat, keep it respectable. You're going to have, it only makes sense. You're going to have a business bumping up into residential. You can't put a buffer that's 20 miles wide. You just can't do that. You're going to run into this. But you have to recognize that your neighbors have not been happy with it. But if you have a measure to which to strive for, so if we say to you in a year, reduce them. Even if you have 9, it's still better than 11, better than 13. But I do think you had to be called to task on this because it was getting slightly out of hand. So nobody's here to slap your knuckles or anything else. We're just trying to say, let's work together, but recognize the fact that you've got neighbors that are finding it not aesthetically pleasing. And I do think we have an obligation to be responsive to our neighbors. So if whoever wants to make that motion, I'll second it. I'm more than happy to do that. It's a cooperation. It's moving forward.
Okay. I've got Brian next.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just want to inform council, if you do change the recommendation to the 1 year, just to be noted that the applicant would need to come forward with a new application requesting the extension of the temporary use bylaws. So just so you're aware that they would have to submit a subsequent application.
Okay. I'm not sure that council's against that. I think that's what they're saying. We'll give you this time frame, and then you come back to us and tell us how it's moving along. Councillor Jacobs?
Thank you, Worship. And I will make a motion that we provide a extension of the bylaw for a 12-month period.
Okay.
And I guess towards Brian's comment, so I guess it really does matter. If we okay that, as you mentioned, that it would be just a matter of filing some paperwork, correct? Okay.
Brian?
And, I'm sorry. And as well, prior to Brian answering this question, I guess, I'm not looking at a review. I'm saying 1 year period. Then if they want to come back at that 1 year, you know.
I know you are, but Councillor Wilkinson said 1 year and let's look at it.
Well, they can come back in a year. I'm just saying, let's get rid of it in a year. I don't want to give too many options here with all due respect, but, you know, I can't see us denying it within a year. But I think Ron's asking that he needs some time to get his house in order. So
Okay.
I'm holding a year.
So we have a motion on the floor, do we not? And we needed a seconder? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought we had a seconder on it. So who made the motion then? But you are now clarifying yours to just be 12 months and it's done.
It's for a 12-month period, and I think if they can't meet that, then it can come back.
Okay.
Okay?
You're good
But I
with
think that,
Okay.
as you mentioned earlier, it gives maybe him the opportunity to provide some of this information to the corporation that they may assist him in coming with a resolution. So if we keep saying there's options, they can run this out. Thank you.
Now, I had a whole bunch of hands going up, so I can't remember. Councillor Hammond, done?
Through you, Your Worship. My first comment is that 12 months would bring it into December again. This is a busy time for a business. Maybe we should be pushing it to January, so it's just after the busy season, so that it'll make it a little easier on the business. That's my first thought on that. Now, when you say Brian's point is that when they come back, does that mean that they'll have to reapply and repay the permit fees and stuff? Is that what you're referring to, that, Brian?
That's correct. It would require the submission of a new application with the required fees. Also want to note that this meeting is just the information report to council. There's still the public meeting requirement and then the final report with the recommendation of a bylaw.
Okay.
Yeah. But it would require the submission of another application.
Okay. Councillor Dunn?
Again, Your Worship, so what would that fee be to the business?
If just give me a second, I'll just take a look at the file. I don't have it on the top of my head, so yep, no problem.
Okay.
Yep, I'll get back to you in a second.
Any other questions? Or Deputy Mayor?
Well, we really can't say anything before the public meeting.
Correct.
So we're just hashing it out. Hopefully, we don't have to hash his long next go round.
Councillor Jacobs?
Thank you. In response to that, to the Deputy Mayor, we're just going to the public meeting with the 1 year agenda. We're not saying it's reducing it from the 3 to 12. That's where my motion was going with this. Still has to go to a public meeting, granted. Thank you.
Okay. So does it really matter what the fee cost is? Or do you have it already?
No, informed that the fees have changed. The 2016 fees are a bit higher than 2015. I would have to get back to Councillor Dunn on the exact number.
Councillor Verbeke?
So if, we're the mayor, so if the public meeting is now in January, and we can make our decision, when might it be the public meeting? Is there a date been set yet?
I'll have to get back to you. I've got it marked down, but I'll get back to you on that. And just so you know, the end of the
Go ahead, Brian.
and the period, whatever's decided 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years, it wouldn't be getting to the actual bylaws passed. If the bylaws passed in February or March, then it would start from that date and go forward. So it would probably end up, you're not looking at December.
Okay. Call the question. Everybody's ready? All in favor of the motion as amended to 1 year? Okay, very good. So that's where we are. So public meeting is next, and you'll be notified of
correct.
that, and we go from there.
Yeah.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is a report regarding building services and staffing and the Peely Township Agreement. Bashara? Oh, sorry, Tracy. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. And just before I move on to this one, the answer to the fees for a temporary use bylaw extension is $750.
Okay, thank you.
So the next report before you is a report to request approval to hire a contract building inspector to assist building services with an increase in workload for a period of 2 years, and to extend the service agreement for Peely Township for a period of 2 years. Just to give you a little background, the construction activities, as you are aware, has risen since the beginning of 2015, mainly due to the zero development charges fee. This has created an increase in workload. This work has affected some of the non-building permit related projects, such as cleaning out outstanding permits, filing, maintaining backflow programs, and so on. Further, the municipality does have an agreement with Peely Township that expires in December to provide building services for Peely Island. With respect to the workload, administration is recommending the hiring of a contract building inspector. It would be a fully qualified building inspector for a period of 2 years to assist with the current workload. In addition, help with some of the succession planning that we are foreseeing in the very near future, and making sure that we continue with a high level of service through qualified and experienced staff. So essentially, we don't have any time for training any contract. It'd have to be somebody who is fully qualified, already a member of the Ontario Building Code Association, and we could just plop in real quickly. With respect to the Peely Township agreement, we are recommending that we continue with that services. It is really good revenue, and it does help in times when we are slow. Because we are not slow, we still think that we can balance out the use of the inspector that goes out. We did reduce the number of inspection days. The inspector did go out, and that helped a lot with respect to balancing out some of the workload. We still were able to maintain the $15,000 plus the extra $2,000 for training. We are proposing an addition for this year as well, and Peely will be taking that into consideration when they look at the agreement. So the recommendation before you is to council hire a inspector for a period of 2 years for contract, and that the mayor and clerk authorize the agreement for Peely Township, which was exactly the same agreement that we had this year for 1 year, but just to change it to a period of 2 years. And our Ontario CBO is here, Bashar Daher, to answer any technical questions as well.
Councillor Jacobs?
Thank you, Worship. With the additional activity going on and the big projects coming with the school and the church and so forth that we have currently, and as well as the additional buildings, and you say that this will not impact a timely inspection for these facilities as they move along through their construction stages? Is that what you're referencing?
Yes, with the assistance of one more position, we'll be able to maintain all our inspection requirements in addition to the requirements for Peely Township.
I'm not opposed to the addition. I think it's great, and we all knew that was going to be coming with the additional amount of construction going on. But I guess my comment is that we're saying that it would keep you busy, or keep this individual busy during slow periods of time. But I think it came before us previously that we're behind on some of the completions of some of these projects, or that we don't, like the files still have not been, I guess, written off, like final inspections or whatever else takes place. You do have a significant number of those that are in arrears currently, do we not?
Bashara? Yep.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor. Just like to touch base on the previous question to Councillor Jacob. For the next 2 years, with the development charges fee reduced to zero, we're going to see larger increase in the construction. Certainly, that's the intent for those 2 years to provide to have help. Okay. A couple of issues there. Right now, with the increase of the permit application, the current building staffing are concentrating only on the issuing the permit and doing inspection. Those are main concern, keep us very busy even during the winter time now, okay? Other project, now we have very important one. One of them is just the outstanding building permits. Now, our record go back to 2010, so we have over 500 permits still need to be completed. Add this year and the next 2 years on top, we'll not be able to catch up with them without help. So our workload certainly is going to increase quite a bit. Okay. Beside that, we have the backflow programs, which is mandated for us to carry on with. We're working with a software company on a new software. We're hoping implementing that in 2016, which required us to carry out survey on the entire facilities for the municipalities. So we're going to need quite a bit, almost dedicated half time of inspector dedicated for that project. So there's quite a bit workload coming up in the next year or so.
Councillor Jacobs?
And I agree with what you're saying, and I think we brought up a while back, and I believe I asked, when are we going to have to bring an individual on board due to all the increased activity that's taking place? But then going back to some of the comments that were made previously as well, is that, you're looking at 2010, we have permits in arrears or that have not been fully completed. Mm-hmm. So I think without Peely Island, this sort of tells me that we have enough work right here in town without continuing to service the island. And I guess that's where I was going with the direction of my questions here. So we need to clean our own house up before we go somewhere else. Thank you.
I had Councillor Verbeke next.
Thank you, Mayor. I know it does say that it is total cost recovery, but I just want to make sure that it is, and they need us more than they think because they want us there. I still don't like putting a cap on there. I would like to see it could be 20,000 next year, but are we still mandated then to the 15, or if all of a sudden they have their building boom there too, is it still per trip, or are you just maxing it out at a certain number?
The amount actually isn't a cap, it's a minimum. So at least we'll get at least the minimum. Anything more than that, we will keep, which would be a good thing for them because then that means there's nothing extra that they have to top up. And I should mention too that we are cost recovery for the building permit fees that we are collecting for the municipality of Leamington. We would like to have that money as a surplus put into a reserve. The Ontario Building Code allows us to be able to use that for direct cost for future building inspections or staffing.
Councillor Verbeke.
And we're the mayor. Just hiring the potential hire of an officer, a qualified officer, is that part of your budget? Is that going to be done now, or are we going to wait till budget to do this? Is this more than above the 4 or 5 people we're going to hire supposedly in February?
Mr. Neufeld?
It is above what I presented. Yes, that's true, and it will. What's important is we already have the money. We've been gathering. We can't use the money that we get for building permits. We can't use for anything else other than building services, and so that's where we'll be driving our payments for.
Okay. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. When we had the building slow down, the council of the day pretty much instructed the administration to cut some
Staff.
I was trying to use the word that, make some cuts, and they decided that that was the best place. And the reason was there wasn't the building going on. There really wasn't a need for the full complement of staff at the time. We hoped that this would happen, that we would need somebody because of the increase. So really to cut corners just to save is not wise at this point in time. And I do like the fact that we're doing it for 2 years, and then if we don't go ahead with freezing the DC charges into the future, we can re-examine it. So I do like that we're not being painted into a corner at this point, but always with the idea in mind that hopefully at the end of the 2 years, we'll be booming enough that we'll need another person as well. And as for Peely Island, Tim and I had this conversation yesterday. It's being good neighbors. Sometimes you just have to do that. We're not making a mint, but they have a need and we're able to provide it. It isn't putting us over a barrel or putting us out to any great extent. I think we would expect a neighboring municipality to help us out if that was the case. So I don't have a problem with any of this. I don't have a problem with it going forward before budget time, because I think we need to move on it so that we have somebody in place when the building starts up again. I don't think it's something that I need to discuss personally at budget. I think this is something we knew and we're hoping was coming.
Councillor Wilkinson?
Thank you, Your Worship. I too was skeptical when I first glanced at our report when I got it on Thursday. Because last time when this appeared, end of last year, I didn't speak as in favor of it at that time. This was something that I threw Rick's way at that time. I called him up one night and I said, Rick, I'm reading this and I'm new to it, but I said, this don't make much business sense to me. We aren't, at best, we're breaking even, and we all agreed to that. And Rick called me back and he said later on the night, he says, yeah, you're right. We aren't setting the world on fire here, basically. We are just breaking even. But he did remind me of something that night. He said there's a lot to be said with being a good neighbor. He's take that into account. He said, just get over it. We are breaking even. And he talked about cost recovery back then. And I think you mentioned it, Mayor, back when we talked about it last year. There is cost recovery in place. I like the way you brought it this time. There's a lot of goodies in here. I've done a little list of pros and cons as I read about it last night. The cap, or the minimum on trips, if you want to call it. The fee after we've reached that minimum. The timelines. I like that we have the timeline, the 2-year on the person that we're going to hire, and timeline again on Peely Island. It helps with cost recovery. That's in there. And last, I got being good neighbors. I really like the way it was presented this time around. I'm in favor. I think it makes sense, and I'll be supporting it.
Good. Actually, I found the one paragraph saying it, pretty much saying it all in regard to the Peely Island situation. If the decision is made to terminate Peely Township services, the inspector time gained will not cover the extra Leamington workload. So it doesn't matter. If you cut it out, we're not any further ahead. So yeah, it doesn't matter. We need that other person, and we can carry on the way we are right now and accomplishing everything that we have to do. So just before I go back to you, Tim, or Councillor Wilkinson, if you look at the building stats that we've been getting on a monthly basis, I mean, it's huge. It's massive, and it's just the beginning. Next year is going to be even better. So is my projection anyway. And we're going to need this body for sure. So, Councillor Wilkinson.
When we look at this 2 years from now, too, we can, it'll be a whole different ballgame at that point. We're going to see what's going to be going on back here as a result of our DC fees being eliminated. We're going to hopefully have a boom that is continuing to happen at that point. We're going to have a qualified body here, maybe at that point, to install here. One thing that we might say to Peely Island at that time, if we can't handle their load, is maybe we start talking with our neighbors to the west, Kingsville, at that point. If maybe Peely should be looking at other options. That's down the road, though.
Yeah,
but right now,
absolutely.
for today, I like the way this is.
Councillor Jacobs.
Thank you, Worship. I was wondering if, like this recommendation regarding it, it's twofold technically. One is to hire an individual. The other one is for services to Peely Island.
Yes.
Can that be broke out into two separate votes? Because I'm not in favor of Peely Island. I'm in favor of the other, so.
Well, we've done it before, so I'm sure we can, so. So yes, we can. Yes? Yes, we can. So then, to the answer to the question, under the recommendation that council approve to hire a fully qualified contract building inspector for a period of 2 years. I need a mover and a seconder for that. Councillor Hammond, Councillor Dunn. Discussion on that motion? All in favor? Carried. And then the second motion or recommendation would be that the municipality authorize the mayor and clerk to enter into an agreement with Peely Township for the enforcement of the Building Code Act for a period of 2 years. Mover and seconder, Councillor Verbeke, Councillor Wilkinson. Discussion on the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. I'm sorry? There's. I'm very sorry, there is a third. The third motion is that a building reserve be created. Moved by the Deputy Mayor, supported by Councillor Dunn. Discussion on that motion. All in favor? Opposed? What? Sorry. Well, as Ms. Abbs indicated, the amount of fees that we've been gathering up now on all, because of the amount of work we're doing, we do have excess funds available, and under law, we are allowed to put that into the reserve for the building department, for building department only. Good? So, and the motion carried anyway, so, yeah. No worries. Okay. Number 6 is a report regarding the Windsor-Essex County Fire Services Training Feasibility Study. Tracy, I assume?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. This final report from my department is to give you an update on the Windsor-Essex County Fire Services Training Study. Just to give you a little background, in 2011, the CAOs of the region received a presentation by the fire chiefs of the region who asked them to coordinate some training efforts for fire services in terms of programming and facilities. Following that presentation to the CAOs, a terms of reference or an RFP was presented to create a feasibility study to look into the matter further. At the time, in 2011, council approved $3,000 to pool their money toward the feasibility study. A steering committee was established with the CAOs group and the fire chiefs. The consultant was hired and it ended up actually costing $1,700 each in total, not the $3,000. The deliverables included some needs assessment, facility assessment, financial assessment, and so on. The study has now been received and reviewed, and just to highlight some of the key outcomes, one is that they have acknowledged that there is some opportunities for collective training for facilities and programming. The study did show that there's possibility for a need for live fire training and major immediate challenges facing the area. The report also talked about collaborative training. So where they are now is all of the municipalities are taking into consideration what the study has shown, and that the recommendation before you this evening is that the matter be brought back to the committee of the CAOs together with the fire chiefs to take it to the next step and develop a work plan and develop recommendations to implement some short-term goals and some long-term goals that have been outcomes of the feasibility study. And the actual study is quite large, and it wasn't attached to the report, but it is on our website as a separate attachment.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Councillor Jacobs?
I'll move the recommendation, Your Worship.
Okay. Support. Councillor Wilkinson. Discussion on the motion. All in favor? And carried. Matters for approval. There's the minutes of the Leamington Accessibility Advisory Committee held November the 4th. Looking for a mover, Councillor Verbeke, supported by Councillor Dunn. On the receipt of that report, discussion on the motion. All in favor? And carried. No other matters for consideration. Report on closed session, we did not have one, so we are consideration of bylaws.
Bylaw 52815 being a bylaw to authorize the borrowing of money to meet the current expenditures of the municipality. Bylaw 52915 being a bylaw to provide for an interim tax levy and to provide for the payment of taxes. And bylaw 53015 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of council from its meeting held December 21st, 2015.
Looking for a mover and seconder for those, the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Wilkinson. Discussion on that motion. All in favor? And carried. There were no notices of motion circulated, so we are into open session for council and staff. Councillor Hammond?
Your worship, thank you. And I'm glad you asked me first. I would like to, on behalf of myself and our entire family, wish everyone, including council, mayor and deputy mayor, and administration, a very Merry Christmas. And I would like to personally thank you for all the help you've given, at least myself, over the last year. It's been well appreciated and helped us get through this first hurdle of 1 year. So thank you very much.
Okay. Councillor Jacobs.
Thank you, Worship. Now he stole all my thunder, but I as well. I want to take this opportunity to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas and to a very prosperous and healthy new year. And I'm looking forward to moving this municipality forward within the upcoming year. And all the good things. Thank you.
Anybody else want to do their Christmas wishes? I was waiting till statements non-debatable. Okay, all right, we'll wait then. Give us more time to think about it. So I know I have, somebody's really anxious here to get some information out to all of you that I've kind of started to share with some of you. So Mr. Neufeld, if you would, please.
On November the 24th, our Economic Development Officer, Janine, and I attended in Toronto at a workshop that was put on by the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Sport. And the workshop was intended to help municipalities prepare information for investors. So if you have a particular investment opportunity in your municipality, they were going to teach us how to prepare for these, to meet with investors. And we spent the day learning, following their process. But even as we were looking through the process, one of the things that was available was that if you had a particularly good product, the Ministry of Tourism was also bringing together 10 investors, large investors who invest in tourism. Hoteliers, restaurateurs, I forget the technical term, but people who bring events to, or bring something to a municipality. So for example, Ripley's. Our product was identified as, we brought forward the waterfront development, and in particular, we chose the potential for a high-end casual fine dining restaurant to be located down at the waterfront. And before the end of the day at that workshop, the organizer had come over and asked if we would commit to coming on December the 15th to present to the tourism dragons. So on December the 15th, Janine and I went back to Toronto, and it was a lot like the speed dating. So they had set up 10 tables, and at each table was an investor group or business. As I said, some were hoteliers, some were restaurateurs, others, they were large corporations. And we had 10 minutes with each dragon. They call them the tourism dragons. We had 10 minutes with each dragon to present our case. And now I won't say that we came back with a boatload of money or investors, but there was certainly interest. And from my perspective, the most important part was that there are now 10 large investment companies involved in tourism who are aware that the most southerly point of Canada is purchasing its waterfront and developing its waterfront and getting into tourism in a way that this municipality has not in the past, and it is tied directly to our economic development future. So we have had some responses already, actually, from our presentations to these investment companies. And we're expecting to do more follow-up with some of the companies. So we will keep you apprised of that, but the word is out there that Leamington is moving forward. Our economic development is going to be tied to, in large part, to the tourism, and there was some very great excitement around those tables.
Mm-hmm. 10 minutes per person was the presentation I had.
So there were 10 of them. So for Janine supported, I spoke, and for 100 minutes straight, I spoke over and over again about this new development and opportunities. And I can tell you that there was some interest, and there were even some who had said, well, you know what else you need to do? You need to do this, and you need to. So we actually got some pretty good advice about how to move forward as well. So I'm looking forward to taking this to the next level.
So it was so bang bang with both meetings that we really just didn't have the opportunity to sit down with council and explain what was happening, because they had to be there, and that's all there was to it. And then in between, they've been working in the negotiations and everything else to keep the town running and trying to get this thing put together. So yep, just want to bring you guys up to date as to what's going on, and there's a lot more. He's way too conservative about when he talks about stuff. I mean, I get way more excited about it. Yeah, well, I'm not going that way. Reserved, how's that? He's far too reserved. But anyway, so I'm glad you're all aware of that now. So, all right. Anything else under open session from the staff or council? If not, then we'll move on to announcement of upcoming meetings. January 4th, ladies and gentlemen, we're back here in the council chambers at 6 p.m. for our council meeting to start off the new year. Statement members, non-debatable. Councillor Dunn.
Through your worship, thank you. I just wanted to state that myself and Councillor Hammond went to the St. John's Anglican community meal this past Wednesday. Their charity community meal was their Christmas event, and they had Dale Butler playing, and they did a great job, and there was a lot of people in attendance, needy people, and it's just a really nice thing to see a member of our community putting on free meals for people in need in our community. So it was really a warm feeling to get to go and do that as well. So, yeah, that's basically all I got to say. Thank you.
Christmas wishes before I move on?
Say no.
Merry Christmas to everyone as well. Thank you.
Councillor Hammond.
Just to follow up on that, if I may, we were fortunate enough, we took 70 flyer tickets and handed them out for the game on Thursday night. And I think we had 5 folks using our handicap in the wheelchairs that showed up. They were really appreciative of that and appreciative of the relics. So it was nice.
Good. Councillor Verbicki.
For the mayor, on behalf of my family and myself, my colleagues, want to wish you a Merry Christmas, staff especially, and I guess all the ratepayers who put us here to manage their money. It's just so hard to believe that we'll be cutting lawn on Christmas this year, but I guess it's Christmas, and I mean, looking already now, a couple of weeks we'll be at our next meeting, and it's 2016.
Yep.
Time flies. They always said time goes fast when you're getting old, so I guess it does.
Councillor Wilkinson.
Thank you, Worship. I meant to get everybody Christmas cards, and I totally forgot about it. It's something
I was wondering where mine was.
I'm lucky I remembered. I just did my shopping yesterday, in fact, and that was one of the things I said I got to do is get everybody a Christmas card, and I totally forgot about it. But Merry Christmas to everybody. Happy New Year. And thank you very much for a great first year.
Councillor Jacobs.
Well, I already said Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, but I'll reiterate, it's been great. And I think I really want to look at Peter and his staff for what you have been doing in the past year. I think it's fantastic. And the only thing is, I think you set the bar pretty high, and I don't know what the heck you're going to come up with next year, but keep up the good work, and it surely is appreciative. Thank you.
Stay tuned, yeah. Mr. Councillor Hammond?
Yeah, me again. I'd be remiss because I completely forgot to thank Councillor Dunn, who his efforts through the Giving Spoon donated $1,000 on for the for the Christmas dinner to the Anglican Church, and
Very good.
it was very nice.
Well done. Deputy Mayor.
I'm not sure there's anything left to say. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to everyone, to the colleagues around the table, to staff and administration for your assistance and guidance in this past year. We've certainly had an interesting year, haven't we? Lots of good things, lots of excitement going forward. Not even just looking forward to this next year, as Councillor Jacobs said, but the next 3. I think we're in for a really exciting ride, and it's an honor and a pleasure to be sitting at this table and working for the residents of the community. I think this is an opportunity that, for me, is definitely one of the top. It's superb to be in on the ground floor of what I see as a huge change. Unlike the gentleman here said, made us sound like we were up to our knees in mud. No. I mean, read the paper. We're doing fabulous stuff with our admin. So anyway, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to everyone. Looking forward to 2016.
Excellent. And myself then, and I'm just doing the so-called politicians tonight, so you burn. Again, to actually the ratepayers, everybody who's out there, the residents of Leamington, Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, safe holiday season for all of you. To my fellow council members and to administration and staff, 2015 is the best year that I have sat in this chair. So thank all of you for this. It was extremely enjoyable, a lot of fun, and very exciting, as many of you all have already alluded to. So I'm just going to wrap it up right there. Have a good time. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Dunn, Hammond, all in favor? We're done.